So I'm back out of here at the compost again, and it seems like I get stuck here. Probably because this is a real convenient place for me to video during my break time. We have about 7 acres of lawn here at the campus where I work, and some of the lawns we catch the clippings. We don't recycle them on the lawns. We bring them down here to the compost. So it's real easy for us to get too much nitrogen too much green into the pile. And I showed you the pile of straw bales that we get here, and those bales, they come when people put events on here at the campus, because we have a lot of places for a lot of venues for different kinds of meetings and events, usually around the harvest time in the fall, Halloween, and those kinds of seasons. There are a lot of times the decorative theme involves using straw bales, and then they don't know what to do with the straw bales when they're finished, so they just leave them. And as a matter of cleanup, we take the straw bales down here to the compost pile, and I use those to mix with the green grass clippings, along with other things. Like there's a big pile of pine needles in the compost right now, and that adds carbon. So basically, like I said before, the green and things like fresh vegetables that go. I don't always put the food into the compost, but other people do. Those things are considered nitrogen, and then the brown colors are usually considered carbon. That's a real basic rule of thumb. It's not 100% true to that coloring, but this morning I'm adding straw to the pile this morning, and then I'm going to turn the pile because there's a lot of grass clippings in here. And if the problem with grass clippings is that it mats as it dries, especially because we add water. It mats, and that causes it draws flies and causes anaerobia, which is a lack of oxygen. And instead of decomposing, it molds, and then the mold, when you turn it, has an odor that's displeasing. So part of the running of a compost pile, or the maintenance of a compost pile, is to know how to manage the odor. I always tell the students that come down, mostly the biology, botany students come down to look and see how this thing works. I always tell them that a good compost pile, when it's working correctly, has a nice sweet smell. It smells like the forest floor, because that's what happens on the floor of a forest. There's a natural decomposition that takes place, whether it's a deciduous forest or an evergreen forest. There's a pile of litter on the floor of the forest, and that's kind of what you're reproducing here. Is what happens in nature. Pretty much that's what gardening is, right? Gardening in general is reproducing what happens in nature. I suppose when man changed from hunter-gatherer to farming is when civilization really begins, right? We didn't have to hunt for our food anymore. We grew it, and we grew it based on what we saw happening in nature. So anyway, I'm down here at the compost pile. It's a Friday morning, and it's my break time, and I needed a time. I call it my time alone. The first 15-minute break in the day, I often come down here and spend time in prayer and listening to the birds sing and that sort of thing. So it's a nice time to just reflect on the day, or in this case it's Friday, so it's the week and everything that's happened. And I can see, you can't see him right now, but off here in the corner is Let's see if I can get this thing to work. Right there's a blue jay has come to visit me. And he visits me quite often. He waits for me to feed him a peanut or something.